um, is that we will discuss a game or games every podcast in which we assess the price it came out at, the release price, and the game. Somebody have played it. In this case, it's David, and they'll kind of give their impression or opinion on, hey, was it worth it? This game was $20. Was it worth it? This game was $80. Was it worth it? So with that being said, today's topic is going to be the recent Resident Evil 3 remake. So David, was it worth it?
Well, let me tell you, I'm going to go over some points, and in the end, I'll let you know. So I'm going to go over the pros first, because why talk negatively about a game right from the get-go? It's not great. So one of the biggest pros is it being a remake. The graphics, the controls, the camera view, if you guys know how the old Resident Evils worked, is amazing. The graphics, it looks like a real city, real people, and the fire and water looks like fire and water. And I could do every little detail, for the lighting and the shading, but I'm just going to go with graphics because it's very broad. And the controls, if anybody has ever tried to go back to play a PlayStation game, it is god awful. One of my favorites is Resident Evil Survivor, and I went to play it. I can't. I literally can't. I literally turned off my PS3 and I said no. And then the camera view back then, it was just set. Like it was like on the wall and you'd have to move that way. But now it's third person, just right behind you, and you can control if you're looking up and down. It's way easier, and it's better. And next we have, the game is still enticing as it was back then. It still sticks to the roots of the original. You still have Nemesis just running at you and trying to kill you, and he scares you, jumping out of walls, jumping off of buildings. It's not cool. And then it's straightforward. It's like I said earlier, I don't like the games you have to run around and find stuff. Like WoW, build stuff up, everything like that. You just go. You have to find a fire hose, sure, but it's linear. You're gonna get to the end and a straight shot essentially. And then with that, there's a new section at the end of this game where you collect points as you play through the campaign, and at the end you can use the points to buy stuff. Like one of them is what I'm sure everyone is going to want to go through first, is the infinite rocket launcher, because who does not want to go back through the game and just blow up everything with one shot? I did that with Resident Evil 4 with the hand cannon, and it is the best of times. You minimize your game time. You minimize having any kind of trouble. Is it kind of cheap? Well, yeah, but you know what? You earned it beating it the first time. Let me have my good time and just blow everything up, and that's the end of it. But unfortunately, now we have the cons, and it being a remake, it's a remake. You're not going to please everybody. I'd be like, oh, it's not the same as the original. What? It's not going to. It's remake. It's updated. Some stuff just doesn't mesh well with the gaming that we have now than what we had then. It's way different. And then in Resident Evil 3, the original, they had an option system. Like once in a while when Nemesis popped up, you'd be like, do you want to run to the kitchen or do you want to jump into the sewers? It's gone. You're just running at this point. And the biggest gripe I have is the mercenaries mode at the end of the original. I loved the mercenaries mode. I put just as much time into that as I did the original game. And for that to not come with in the remake, very upsetting. But they did give us Resident Evil Resistance, which is actually a lot like Dead by Daylight that I mentioned earlier. 1 killer, 4 survivors. While it does have its very own take, it's essentially the same game. If you're just gonna put it in a pot, it's the same. And some of the sections of the game isn't included from where the original, like big scenes like the park, the clock tower, the water treatment plant. You're not in those in the remake, and like the clock tower is kind of a big thing for some players. But I was fine with that. Didn't really bother me too much. You see it, you just don't get to go in it or anything like that. And the biggest thing a lot of people have, and what a lot of people are going to base on if it's worth it or not, is the game time. It is shorter than the original. Now, personally, I don't remember how long it took me to beat the original, so I watched some videos on it, and people were averaging about 7 hours or so for people who don't speed run, because speedrunners are just ridiculously amazing at these games. I don't know how they can do it.
It's because they're crazy people.
Yes. But the new one, I beat it in 5 hours, and that was me not knowing what I was doing, trying to find everything. So I'm sure when I play through it again, I'm going to cut down to like 3 hours, 2.5 hours. So with all that said, I personally think it was worth the price tag. I believe it was $60. It brought me back to good times when I was younger. It brought me back into the Resident Evil series, which I said I love it. So just to have to run away from Nemesis again just really brought back good times. And even though it doesn't have the mercenaries, it does have Resistance, and I love multiplayer games. So I like it. I think it's worth it.
So you're saying they remade it, right? They remade it a little bit shorter, took out some sequences. They extracted or took away an original game mode and put in a game mode of which was basically replicated from another already popular game.
Yes.
Okay. I'm forming suspicions and an opinion here.
Well, to add to that, the Resident Evil Resistance does have a lot of differences. Like they have their own abilities and everything like that. And like Dead by Daylight, they just have like some perks. But the killer can add zombies, and then they can be the zombie and attack the survivors. The gameplay is different. It is a whole new take on it, but they're both a 1v4. So that's where it's the same.
Let me ask you this about Resistance then.
Yes.
From a game to game, is there a lot of variability in that? Like, I know you play 4 people. I played the beta of it. You're getting a key. You're trying to get to the next section.
Yep.
I played about 4 or 5 matches. You're getting the key and you're trying to go to the next section. Is there a lot of variability in each of the games that you play? I know if you're the murderer, yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do. But as a survivor, are you going to be feeling like it's kind of samey after a while?
In essence, yeah. While playing as the killer, you can choose, I think it's 4 different scenarios, quote unquote, because that's the scenarios are how all the key items and stuff is placed in the map. So it's not going to be the same every time, but there is only so many options, and that's at least right now. I'm not sure if they'll update that or add more scenarios or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, it's same as any other game. It will kind of feel the same eventually, but you will have good matches where it's you had a hot streak and just blew the killer out of the water. But sometimes you're gonna get wrecked, and it's gonna be a bad day.
Now, I think from you talking about it, this game does seem like it's a very quality game. Great production, good combat. You didn't mention the story, but I'm assuming it was at least pretty good.
Yes, no, yeah, I like the story. I like what they did with it. They included enough for me to be pleased with it. I mean, just because they didn't have a few places, they had more added to the places that were in the game. Like the hospital is just a lot bigger.
Okay.
So it
definitely sounds like it's worth it, except for that 5-hour gameplay. Like that's
Right.
the thing for
Which-
a $60 game. Should the hours you put into a game story actually matter on how much it costs? Like if it's an amazing game and it's only 4 or 5 hours, should you even really care about the price?
I don't think so, and I think that's why they added that point system in it, so that way you can add more game time and just at least have fun with it, or
Okay.
try to beat it in the fastest amount of time that you can, because they do have a grading system on when you beat it. Like I've beaten it once so far, and I only got a B because it took me 5 hours. For an S ranking, you need to beat it in 2.5 hours or less, and you can only save, I think it was 2 times or 3 times, and I saved like 12.
Okay.
So there is a competitive edge to it if you want to take it.
So it kind of sounds like Capcom knew it was going to be a little shorter, but they tried to add all these different things to kind of entice you to keep playing. You have a 5-hour story, but at the end of the day, you have an online mode, you have reasons to go back, you have perks when you get that rocket launcher, and to you,
Right.
that's what makes it worth it.
Yeah, because that online game
Okay.
alone, you can put in 100 hours and still have a great time.
Okay.
It also sounds like they're very much aware of the huge Resident Evil speedrun community, so they kind of made it to where it's a little bit more not too taxing for them, I guess, as far as time
like-
goes. Yeah.
My brother actually speed runs the Resident Evil games, and he does very well with them. And just to have them be like that short, like he can beat Resident Evil 3 Remake in an hour and 50 minutes easy. And
Yes.
I just that just blows my mind. But yeah, since it's shorter, there's less places to make errors. You don't have to remember as many spaces and bad guys and everything like that. So I think they kind of try to compensate all players that are gonna play it.
So I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
And this is the reason I have not bought the game. I liked Resident Evil 2. I loved it. It was like my second, favorite game of last year.
Mhm.
How scary is this game?
Is
Is it worth it to buy if you are a coward? Like some people I know are. Not me.
Yeah, it's not big on really like scaring you the entire time, because I mean you already know it's a zombie game. There's zombies gonna be everywhere. It's just
Well, that's what makes it scary.
once in a wait, okay, if you're
'Cause I'm a
that
coward.
if you're that scared of like I wouldn't get it, but sure, Nemesis scares you a couple times, but it's
I mean, have you seen his face?
That's about it. Yeah, he's just scary in general.
It's yeah.
But yeah, there's a few like oh crap moments, like that scared the crap out of me. But yeah, it's not like the scariest game you will ever play.
All right,
It's not Five Nights at Freddy's scary.
that
yeah.
revolutionary game, evolutionary. Yeah, I'll tell all my buddies who were too scared to get it that it's a-okay.
Good.
Or you can just call them cowards to their face and just see how that works out.
All right, I'll be going to the mirror then.
Oh, there you go.
All right, so I guess it sounds like it was worth it.
Yes, very much.
All right, there you go, folks. Take it from us. 100% worth it.
Yeah. Well,